From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ and our third week on our month-long stop here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. I'm Paul, and she's Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. And Sue, we got a special treat for everybody this week. We haven't had one of these, and it wasn't planned this way, but this is as close to a Beat the Champ all-star show as we've ever had.
Yes, like I mentioned, this is like PBA quality bowling we're going to see today. I mean, there's tons of experience with these guys. They know how to bowl on everything. There's coaches, students, just great bowlers.
Yeah, and the great bowlers, including Matt Zasowski, who comes back as our Beat the Champ champion. He'll be challenged today by some of the best guys we've seen on this show in Tony Dolan, Chuck Jagodzinski, and Jeff Walsh. Combined, our four bowlers have 18 Beat the Champ wins and 7 trophies. They're going to be challenged by the lane conditions here, but I think if anybody's up to it, it's these four guys.
And that's in our mere 9 months of being on the air. That's a lot of trophies. That's a lot of wins.
Yeah, so it should be a great day of bowling here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. Without any further delay, let's get rolling. Our murderer's row of great Buffalo bowlers begins with Matt Zasowski taking on that gentleman, Tony Dolan. Matt has 6 Beat the Champ wins. Tony has 5 Beat the Champ wins. And we know when we saw Tony earlier in the year, he is one of the best guys in town and one of the toughest bowlers for people to figure out and beat. And he starts off the way you would expect, with a big strike as he turns things over to Matt Zasowski. Matt's coming off a win to wrap up last week's show, a victory that put Matt in this one over Joe Coleman. But again, Matt is also a guy who has been a regular here on Beat the Champ. The 41-year-old cook from Tonawanda is one of the stars of this show, Sue.
Absolutely. I expect to see a decent scoring match here and some good camaraderie between these two gentlemen.
And a little bit of a late fall there, but a strike for Matt Zasowski to begin this match. Now, keep in mind, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, one of the challenges that all the bowlers have faced is a challenging oil pattern and lane conditions. The Route 66 oil pattern, not many of the bowlers have been getting their kicks on Route 66 here at Manor Lanes, but it has really pushed the guys hard. The scores have been a little bit lower because of it, but again, these are some of the best bowlers in town. If anybody's going to be able to figure that out, it's this group of guys today.
Right, and it'll be a little interesting to see Tony as our first left-hander who there's been no play on the left side of the lane, how this affects him, because it's fresh for him, where the guys on the right side have really been pushed inside already and have seen changes on the lanes. So I'm expecting that it will look good for Tony in the beginning, but that there'll be some chinks in the armor as he goes through the match, through the game, and gets a few changes, but we'll have to wait and see.
Right, we've had 7 bowlers through our first 2 weeks of shows here at Manor Lanes, and none of them have been lefties. So, like you said, that side of the lane is completely untouched. And that time, Tony did not get that ball to hook over, and he leaves a cluster of pins in the middle.
Now that ball didn't come off his hand as good as he would have liked. It was not as much, he didn't get as much hit on it, and it looked like it was a little bit left of his target. Right,
you saw our Facebook information there. That's the best place for you to keep track of qualifying and scores, and all the latest chatter going on about Beat the Champ is on our Facebook page. And a good spare for Tony Dolan in the second frame. Tony Dolan is 40 years old. He's from West Seneca, self-employed in the precast concrete business. Been bowling for 34 of his 40 years, a cumulative 230 average, and a long list of accomplishments that we will get to before we are done here today. There's Janelle Sabin as you get our look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard early on through 2 frames here in this match between Matt Zasowski and Tony Dolan. And boy, look at that one. I don't know that we've seen that many pins left in a split so far in a long time.
As I've said, there's going to be some chinks in the armor as he goes by. He's going to find that there is no room to the left and there is no room to the right, which bowlers always like to create a little bit of one or the other.
5 pins to knock down. He gets 3 of them. So it's an open frame in the third for Tony Dolan. And now we move back to Matt. Matt Zasowski with a 41 years old from Tonawanda, 234 average bowls on Monday nights at Transit Lanes, on Thursday nights at Kenmore. Already won a couple of Buffalo City titles this year. 51 300 games to his outstanding career records.
Great shot.
And we are off to a 3-strike beginning for Matt Zasowski.
What you won't see very often is a right-handed bowler that is standing actually left of the left-handed bowler. If you look at them on the approach, Matt is actually beginning further left than Tony is starting, and Tony is bowling on that side. So
is that an adjustment you think Matt has made based on a little bit of knowledge of the conditions?
Well, that's because he's forced to play so far inside. His most consistent reaction is inside, which is the middle arrows. But his target is actually on Tony's side.
Yep.
He's crossing over the third arrow from the left side.
Yeah, and you could see on that last shot how far left Matt's ball is beginning to end up right, to come back and come in and knock them all down, which he has done now. That is a start of 4 strikes in to begin things for Matt Zasowski. And here's Tony Dolan. And once again, Tony is struggling a little bit right here. Tony Dolan has won 6 times, 5 times on Beat the Champ, 5 wins and 3 losses. This is his 5th show, and he has 1 weekly win, and that came very early on in the Beat the Champ run. Tony was the winner in week 4 at the Kearns Avenue Bowling Center, and that was back in February. And it's a spare for Tony in the 4th frame.
So that was the same lead that he left there on his last shot on lane 20. He's looking at having to get the ball a little more up on the lanes and not going as close to the gutter as he is on the left side.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for the guys here, and that was part of the design of the way the folks here at Manor Lanes did it with the oil pattern, was they wanted to challenge the guys a little bit. Wanted it not to be as quote-unquote easy as it maybe has been at times, so they moved away from the house pattern, which tends to be a little easier and lead to higher scores, and kept the guys not only for qualifying but for the competition here on this.
Exactly, as opposed to just putting the lane condition easier to, highlight good scores. They've chosen to let the guys bowl on what they qualified on. So we'll get to see a little tougher lane pattern, and they get to stay, the people that bowled good on it and have adjusted to it will continue to bowl on it.
So it's another spare for Tony Dolan, and Matt Zasowski off to a great start here. Strikes in his first 4 frames. Let's see what he does in number 5. There you go, 5 in a row.
Matt's perfect through 5.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
So I think it's pretty safe to say Matt Zasowski has been the most successful Beat the Champ bowler in 2016. And hold on to your hats, 7 in a row.
Perfect through 7. Don't say it.
I won't say it, but I will say that hasn't happened yet.
It's too early.
It's too early. I'm just telling you it hasn't happened yet. Since we've been on the air here since January of 2016. 8th frame now for Matt. Nothing but X's across the board. It's been nice and simple for Janelle to keep score over there on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep scoreboard. Make it 8. It's the grade 8 for Matt Zasowski.
Perfect through 8.
And back to Tony now. And again, here's how this show has gotten some traction and turned these guys into celebrities a little bit. Tony says he's run into a bunch of old friends who are non-bowlers, and they have mentioned the show, and they said, boy, we haven't seen you in a while. because Tony actually was pretty regular on almost every one of our shows earlier in the year, and then he was out of town, missed a couple of qualifiers, and then missed a cut in last month's show up at Alley Brand. So we actually haven't seen Tony in about 3 months, so he's got friends of his in Western New York who are not necessarily bowlers saying, hey, haven't seen you on the show, what's going on?
Well, that's a little added pressure.
A little bit, yeah. And he's also been spending a little time enjoying his other favorite sport, which is golfing, and I know he enjoys very much doing that in the summer as well, too.
You and I don't have that problem. We get to make the show every week.
That's right. Spare in the 8th frame for Tony as he gears up for frame number 9, but still a huge deficit that he faces thanks to the start of Matt Zasowski. Nice strike.
Well,
Ninth frame.
Tony did figure him out. He hit the pocket nicely on lane 20, so he has figured out a little too late. Now he's going to be a good sportsman and sit on the sidelines and cheer for Matty.
All right, well, we are all cheering for Matt as he enters the 9th frame. Perfect across the board. I think for the next couple of throws here, the pictures will tell you the story.
Come on, Matty.
And the run comes to an end. Nice round of applause from the crowd here at Manor Lanes. I think we were all hoping we could see a 300 game, and I know Matt was thinking he could do it too.
It's pretty characteristic in bowling that when someone has a string of strikes like 8 in a row or 9 in a row, that everything becomes quiet.
Sure.
And it does change. You notice it as a bowler. You notice when it becomes quiet, and it puts that added dimension of nervousness on you when all of a sudden there's nothing but silence.
So it's a 9th frame spare for Matt Zasowski, and he is headed towards a victory here. But I think we've all, I'll tell you what, it's as great as these guys have been and as good as this bowling has been, I'm a little surprised we have not had a 300 game yet. And I understand why. The competition's been tough, the lane conditions, but I mean, I always try to give you the stats for every guy, and most of these guys are well over 30, 40 career 300 games. I'm a little surprised we just haven't had one yet, even by accident.
A testimony to Matty is that I didn't think that one of the closest calls would be on a sports shot that's been bowled on as much as this shot has been bowled
True.
on.
Good point.
So there is some tremendous shot making that we have seen. He makes it look easy, but I can tell you from experience it's not easy.
10th frame for Matt Zasowski, finishing it off in style. And a nice conversation between a couple of good competitors there, and Matt and Tony. Everybody has respect, as much respect as possible for a great bowler like Tony, and in turn he gives that respect back
Absolutely.
to the guys that he competes against. Final throw here for Matt Zasowski to complete an outstanding effort, and he's going to wind up with all strikes and 1 spare for an impressive 279 on the board for Matt Zasowski, by far the highest score we have had here in Manor Lanes.
That is a monster game on this scoring condition.
So Tony Dolan will finish things out here in the 10th frame, and he's found the rhythm a little too late, but he certainly has found it, and I think that's part of the reason you're getting the smile on Tony's face was, okay, I got to figure it out now, but I needed to do that about 6 frames ago. He hit that little stretch there where he went spare, open, spare, 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 and that was,
It's tough coming in cold because the practice pairs are just that. They don't really resemble what you're going to bowl on that much. It's not like you can really line up on a practice pair, so you're still waiting to come over here to see what you're really dealing with.
Yeah, so one more throw for Tony to post his final score up, but for Matt Zasowski, going to be his 7th Beat the Champ win, which moves him to the top of the list. Nobody else has won 7 games on Beat the Champ, and Matt Zasowski owns that prize right now. Tony Dolan on the board, finishing off with a 190. Nothing to be ashamed at there, but compared to the 279 for Matt Zasowski, it kind of pales in comparison, but what an impressive performance by Matt. That's 2 wins in a row for him. We'll find out what the key to his success was in this match, and we'll get Tony's take on it as well when we come back to Manor Lanes on Grand Island Boulevard in Tonawanda. You're watching Beat the Champ. A terrific match between 2 outstanding bowlers, but it's Matt Zasowski with the win, 279 to 190 over Tony Dolan. If bowling were like 13 or 14 frames, I think you might have been able to pull this thing out because you started to find your groove.
Yeah, it took me a little while to realize the lanes were a little different than each other, and Matt had that caught, and it was just fun to watch.
Yeah,
bowled a great game.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and he had the advantage of having bowled a little bit before as well, too. So, Tony, keep up the good work as always, and Sue, you get to keep hanging out next to this guy.
Did you get the memo that was a sport shot?
And I must have missed that one.
Well, you made it look easy out there.
I think they're setting up pretty nice. There's a nice funnel in the middle, and I'm just throwing it really well today, and I'm just trying to execute shots and see what happens. And they're following today, so that helps too.
Yeah, well, and again, it doesn't get much easier for you, Matt, because next up is Chuck Jagodzinski, another one of our most successful Beat the Champ bowlers, but nobody knows how to handle those guys like you do, so we'll see what happens. It's Matt and Chuck. It's our next match from here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. You're watching Beat the Champ. We're back right after this. Chuck Jagodzinski versus Matt Zasowski, and these 2 guys are outstanding bowlers, much like in our first match, Sue. It doesn't get any easier for Matt. He goes from beating Tony Dolan to now having to face a guy in Chuck Jagodzinski who won 5 matches in a row on Beat the Champ down in Jamestown a couple of months ago.
Well, if you're perfect through 8, you really don't have to worry about who you're bowling for the most part.
No, you're right. And there's Chuck with a strike to start things off. 5-1 is the overall record for Chuck, and this is his 4th Beat the Champ show appearance. He's got 2 weekly trophy wins, but everybody's chasing Matt and his 4 weekly trophy wins. So let's see what Matt Zasowski does. He started our last match off with 8 consecutive strikes. Let's see how this one goes. And it won't be that, put it that way. He's going to leave the 10 pin, and he'll bowl for a spare here in his first frame. And I'm sure Matt knows the pressure is going to be on from a good bowler like Chuck.
Well, in the bowling community, I'm not going to say it's ever easy to shoot a 300 and 800, but between the 2, you'll find that these bowlers have a lot more 300s than they have 800s because it's easier to put 1 game of 12 strikes together than it is to put 3 games together.
Sure.
So this is a case where just because you shoot 279, we know how elusive 800s are. It's difficult to keep that going over a 3-game period.
And that is not how Matt wanted to start. An open frame in the first as he misses the 10 pin.
I mean, even though Matt's already bowled 11 frames, he's only shot 1 spare.
That's correct. This is his 3rd match in a row, going back to last week's show, and we've started to see a little bit of that. The guys start to wear down a little bit. At Beat the Champ TV on Twitter, hashtag Beat the Champ for all of your social media information, and then like us on our Facebook page at Beat the Champ, which is by far your best place to get all the latest information on qualifying schedules, results, and chatter. You like the chatter part of it, don't you?
I like to not look at the chatter part.
No, that's probably better off that way.
I don't want to get caught up in it.
Bowlers can be good at chatter, can't they?
They can.
And again, another pin still standing for Matt Zasowski.
I've yet to meet a bowler without an opinion.
Good point. About anything and everything.
Yeah.
41-year-old cook from Tonawanda is Matt Zasowski with a cumulative average of 234 in bowling since he's 14 years old, has at times competed on the PBA tours, but is always one of the best bowlers in Western New York. And as we've pointed out, he has arguably the best Beat the Champ bowler. And there's a spare for Matt in the second frame. And now we move it back to our guy, Chuck Jagodzinski from Lancaster. Works full-time at the Wendy Correctional Facility. He's 48 years old. He's been bowling since he's 8 years old with a 230 cumulative average. And Sundays at Wimbledon, Mondays at Broadway, Tuesdays at Manor, Thursdays at Alden. And I can't imagine that he doesn't figure out some way to do Friday, Wednesday, and Saturday too.
Again, the same thing. We've seen it happen time and time again where these people that we're seeing rise to the top just do a lot of bowling.
Chuck's rocking the boxing glove inside the bowling ball, and that was good enough to get him a spare in the second frame here. Now he changes balls here for the left side lanes, and he gets a strike.
Those bowling balls, those acrylic see-through bowling balls that where you can see there's ones with a rose in it, the boxing glove. Those were from a long time ago. I'd be interested to find out how long he's had that spare ball.
Well, we'll have to ask him that. There's Janelle Sabin manning the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard early on in this second match of the day here at Manor Lanes between Matt Zasowski and Chuck Jagodzinski. It's a very early 30-pin lead for Chuck as Matt tries to shake off that open frame in the first. And will it fall? It will not.
Not much you can do about this. The nemesis of the bowler is that
the sticky 7 and
tap,
sticky 10, right?
The tap. It was, by all accounts, that was a very good shot.
Yeah, and we've got a little lane issue here to take care of. We'll probably have Jim join us and chatter a little bit on our next week's show. And the hook comes in and the ball goes down and the pin goes down for a third frame spare for Matt Zasowski.
So a 12-pin lead for Chuck, but he does have that strike up, which will give him the advantage of it, making that lead bigger.
But a fun run here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. We started off our first show with 3 newcomers taking on Mike Zarcone, and then as we've kind of moved our way through the last couple of weeks, we've gotten into a group of significantly experienced guys like Tony and Chuck, and then Jeff Walsh coming up in our next match.
Right.
So it's been a good mix. And again, it just tells everybody out there that if you show up and you qualify and you bowl well, you can make the show. Whether you've been here before or whether you haven't, you know, every place is different. Every bowling center suits someone's skills differently. So we encourage anybody and everybody out there who enjoys the sport to come out and qualify for our next Beat the Champ series of shows. And that will not count as the ball hit the alley, the gutter first.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Got a good crowd here, good folks on here to support their friends and relatives, the bowlers, and good group of people here at Manor Lanes. This is a bowling center that dates back into the 60s and has been owned and operated by the Russo family for well over 40 years. Back to back for Matt Zasowski. So Chuck Jagodzinski, with his 5 weekly wins, is 3rd overall amongst all our bowlers. He's got a 5-1 record here on Beat the Champ. This is his 4th show. He has 2 weekly wins, and as we mentioned, and it's kind of a cool story as we get another strike from Chuck. He rattled off 5 in a row at the Jamestown Bowling Company, lost to Matt White, who then rattled off 6 in a row right after that. It was kind of an amazing stretch that we had there down in Jamestown a couple of months ago.
Because as we've seen here at Manor, it's not easy to keep the string going. We've had a lot of one-game wins here at Manor, and to get those long strings going is a testimony to some great bowling.
Yes, you bet it is. Another strike, Chuck Jagodzinski with another one of the 7. That's 5 in a row for Chuck. And he is really starting to build that lead over Matt right now.
Well, these bowlers have an ability to play very deep inside the lane, and that seems to be where they're getting the most consistent ball reactions. So they're now actually in the same spot, which we really haven't seen. We haven't seen bowlers playing in the exact same area like these two are.
Nice hook over from right to left, and a strike for Matt Zasowski. And again, as you pointed out in our last match, you can really see how far left Matt starts his ball here.
Right.
And you can watch it on this throw here. It starts left, it goes right, and then it hooks in again. And that's just starting to figure out the oil conditions and the lane patterns, correct?
Well, that's where they're finding their most consistent ball reaction. I mean, they can play on other parts of the lanes, but it's inconsistent. This here is giving them a little bit of room and giving them some hit power for their balls.
And you saw it there, and you see the results. And that's 4 in a row for Matt Zasowski, matching Chuck Jagodzinski. So if Chuck opens the door here, we might have ourselves a really interesting match. But if he keeps doing what he's been doing, not so much. And that's what he's been doing.
They are really playing the same exact part of the lane.
6 in a row for Chuck Jagodzinski. Boy, after that stretch of bowling that we saw down in Jamestown, he is one of the most impressive and consistent bowlers of all the guys that we've had perform well here on Beat the Champ.
Wow.
7 in a row. You know, now you're looking back and going, boy, that he left one pin in the second frame, or we might be talking about the same thing we were talking about last match, which is trying to be the first guy to hit a perfect game here on Beat the Champ. Haven't had one yet. We've got a lot of bowling. We're in our 27th week of bowling on Beat the Champ.
For all our bowlers at home, this is so impressive to see this much striking, playing, truthfully starting out from the left side of the lane.
Particularly on
crossing the arrows on the left side of the center arrow.
Yeah, just couldn't get anything to fly over there and knock that 4-pin down for Matt. So his run of strikes comes to an end at 5. And that probably gets close to putting this one in Chuck's hands.
Oh, definitely. Matt can only go out for 2-teen here. He's 215 spare strike, and Chuck's far past that now. Chuck's looking at striking out for 280. So we've had a 279 and 280 today.
Yeah, which again we didn't
if he
expect
strikes out
this late. You know, as the lanes have started to break down a little bit, and they were very tough to begin with. So that's a bit of a surprise, but a tribute to the outstanding bowlers that we have here.
Well, our next matchup will be against Jeff Walsh, who is also very good at playing that part of the lane, playing deep and opening the lane up like that. So I expect that we'll see more of the same with Jeff.
215 final score up on the board for Matt Zasowski, and Chuck Jagodzinski's just got to roll them out here. 10th frame. Couldn't keep the strike streak going. 7 in a row it was for Chuck Jagodzinski.
He got that one a little bit right of his target, but it still rolled up, made the turn. Shows that he has a little bit of area out there on the lane.
And there's an open frame as he misses that 10-pin. Couldn't throw the knockout punch with that boxing glove bowling ball there. And it's a 247 on the board for Chuck Jagodzinski. He comes up with the win over Matt Zasowski. A terrific match between two outstanding bowlers. We'll talk to both of them. It's our second match with one more to come here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. Sue and I are back to talk to the guys right here on Beat the Champ. A stretch of 7 consecutive strikes leads Chuck Jagodzinski to the win over Matt Zasowski as Chuck will advance on. You probably, as much as any of our bowlers, wear your emotions a little bit on your sleeve, and we can kind of tell where your attitude and where your mind is at in the middle of a match. You got off to the rough start. Were you chasing that a little bit?
Yeah, the ball I was using, the Rebel, was a little lazy down the lane, so I switched balls too late. And missing a couple spares, I stuck in the ball. It's humid in here. I got hot. And then Chuck bowled really well. So I just missed the read. I didn't switch quick enough, and that's what happens.
Right. Well,
you got to be fast on those things.
At the very least, we know we're going to get you back, but right now you're pretty much at the top of the stat sheet for number of wins and number of weekly wins. So at the moment, you're the king of the Beat the Champ bowlers, but that doesn't mean that guys like Chuck aren't going to jump on that, right?
No, amazing run at Jamestown, and now you're here again. We're going to see another run similar to that one.
We can hope. I got Jeff, so he's pretty tough, but we'll see what happens. Me and Matt didn't miss the pocket on this hard shot, and I just got more strikes, so you don't know how long it's going to last, you know.
Yeah, we've seen that. You found a pretty sweet spot.
Yeah,
on the
one
lane.
game, and then all of a sudden you didn't carry anymore. So, but I think I should be all right. But I don't know where Jeff's going to play. He'll probably be around where I'm playing. So we'll see if it holds up.
All right, well, it's Jeff Walsh. That's the next opponent for Chuck Jagodzinski. It's our final match of the day here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. Should be a good one. Stick around and come on back. Beat the Champ continues right after this. Should be another good one here. Our third match of the day features Chuck Jagodzinski, and you briefly saw our opponent, Jeff Walsh. It'll be Chuck that will start things off here. And again, two of the outstanding bowlers in Western New York, long-time successful league guys, both of them, and also have had some nice success here on the show. And here we go. Chuck Jagodzinski, who knows how to string some Beat the Champ wins together. He also knows how to put some strikes together, and we're off to a good start here as we wrap up our Labor Day weekend shows here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda. And now we get our first look at Jeff Walsh. It is his second appearance here on Beat the Champ. He's got 2 wins and 1 loss. He is 43 years old from Cheektowaga, and he runs the Pro Shop, or is the Pro Shop Tech at Bowler's Choice Pro Shop.
We also saw him bowl with his daughter Morgan, who herself is a great bowler.
And I think we saw him in one of our Pro Shop challenges
and the Pro
early
Shop
in the year. So
right.
this is not the only, it may be the second time he's bowled competitively on Beat the Champ, but it's at least the 4th time that we've seen Jeff.
That's right.
I'm starting to know all these guys by their first name, and they're starting to all come up to me and say hello to me by my name. So I know we're starting to get the same guys one after another. Manor Lanes in Tonawanda, Grand Island Boulevard, just off the 190, just near Sheridan Drive. ManorLanes.com for all the information on schedules and leagues. Remember, where leagues are kicking in as we get through Labor Day, and then there's all your information social media-wise on Twitter at BeatTheChampTV and hashtag BeatTheChamp. And make sure you like us on the Facebook page for all the latest info on schedules, qualifying, and results. Here's Jeff Walsh as he moves over to the left side lanes. Big hook, but not hooking enough. That was way to the right.
Yeah, he sprayed it through the break point. That's one of the downfalls of this shot, is you got to be very accurate, because anything right of your target is going to make the ball shoot off to the right and make you look like you missed by more than you did.
Jeff Walsh is always busy in the bowling shop at the Pro Shop, but he also bowls the Transit Lanes on Thursday nights with a 225 average there. And a nice spare pickup for Jeff in the second frame. Now we turn things back over to Chuck. You know, we've talked a little bit about during that amazing run that he had at Jamestown that it's an unorthodox approach for Chuck Jagodzinski, but I'm telling you what, it works for him, and it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, but if you do it the same way all the time and you get the same results, it doesn't really matter.
Well, that's exactly true. He hits his target. He's got excellent roll on the ball, and he knows how to line up, and he understands the game. That's all the tools you need.
Doesn't waste any time, coming right up and grabbing the spare in the second frame for Chuck Jagodzinski.
Just like anything, timing and consistency has everything to do with your success.
52 career 300 games as you get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Always manned capably by Janelle Sabin. 52 perfect games for Chuck Jagodzinski. 29 800 series within a high of 849. And that 10 pin would not give it up.
Like we've seen with Maddie, and we talked a little bit in the interview, these lanes change and makes a slight difference in your ball reaction, and all of a sudden what was striking before is now leaving one pin, a corner pin, and you lose your carry. It's fast changing.
So we shift it back over to Jeff Walsh, 43 years old, been bowling since he was about 12 years old. Came in as the 9th qualifier with a 624 qualifying score here amongst our bowlers at Manor Lanes. He's got 78 perfect 300 games and 24 800 series. And that one kind of plowed through the pins, but like he was pushing snow, but it didn't send anything else flying.
Jeff's using a ball that has a little bit of a sharp break in the back end, and that can be a little hard to control.
Harder to control based on the lane conditions, or?
Well, the way it reads the lane conditions, it's a little sharp in the back. So when he gets the ball in a little bit, if you see like the 4-pin that Chuck left on lane 19, he actually got that inside of his target, but because he's using a ball that lays off in the back, or that his projection makes it lay off in the back, he left a 4-pin, where Jeff's ball does not lay off in the back, and his sharper angle will leave more funky formations.
Got it. Multiple Tonawanda City titles for Jeff Walsh. Multiple Buffalo City titles. Tri-City Masters champion. Brunswick Shootout champion. So lots of accomplishments in the outstanding career of Jeff Walsh. And I thought he might get that pin to fly over and knock that down, but he couldn't get it to work. So the 6-pin stays up.
Well, again, a characteristic of this lane condition is that the middles are going to start to hook. So you have to control the middle of the lane. So in this case, his ball definitely has a little too much energy once it's getting through the middle of the lane too good. You want it to lay off and be more subtle into the pocket.
4 frames and 4 spares for Jeff Walsh, and we turn it back over to Chuck for frame number 4. He started strike spare to begin this match. Yeah, didn't have much going on that one. Only 14 miles an hour on the
I'll
speed
say
chart.
that looked a little slow to me.
Yes, and remember, the most of the guys have been in the 17 and 18s.
Right.
Back to the bowling glove spare ball that works for Chuck.
That's a great.
So what happens when a ball comes off that slow? What causes that?
Slow will make the ball hook more, and it makes it
what
hook earlier.
What causes it to be slow?
The
one that we showed before, the 14-mile-per-hour one. What caused that to be so slow?
Oh, the way he threw it. He either didn't get enough, didn't get to set on his feet. You can normally project most of your speed from your legs. So when we saw like Joe Pullman stand all the way back on the approach, he was generating more ball speed, and he tends to have a little higher ball speed. So his leverage was probably bad. His timing was bad.
Missing on the spare is Chuck Jagodzinski.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
What Jeff has not done yet is take home a Beat the Champ trophy, but a win in this match will do it. Chuck Jagodzinski has already taken home 2. Will there be a third? And there's the first of the 2 doubles that were needed for Jeff Walsh. Strike in the 7th, that is 3 in a row. Don't forget, next week here, our always special 4th episode of our stops here will feature bowlers from the Sightless League here at Manor Lanes, and they're very proud of that, and we are very excited to see the folks be a part of our show next week, so make sure you tune in for that as the Sightless Bowlers take over Beat the Champ for next week's show. Yeah, didn't quite get the double that you said he needed, but he comes pretty close. And it's a chance for a spare here. But it's still built a pretty sizable lead for Jeff Walsh.
It's a 40-pin lead for Jeff at this point.
Nice spare for Jeff Walsh in the 8th frame.
So here's the advantage of spares, because Jeff was fishing around a little bit in the beginning of the match. He really truly hadn't found his spot, but he filled his frames, made his spares, gave himself an opportunity to stay in the match until he found his spot.
And then in turn, Chuck Jagodzinski had those 2 open frames, and now he's leaving himself quite the challenge here.
Greek
in
church.
The 8th, the Greek church. We've had that one before.
That's
very
right.
good. Because you got to do a lot of praying to get all these pins down. Open
That,
frame.
and it's
because
the
it kind of looks like a
formation,
G,
I think,
right?
yeah.
I know, I got it. I gotcha. Well, that's somewhat shocking. That is 3 open frames in this match for Chuck Jagodzinski, and you can't win against the caliber of bowlers here if you do that.
No, Chuck just lost his ball reaction. Something changed on the lane for him, and he just lost his ball reaction. So Jeff's going to win this one on the bench.
And that's a 4th open frame for Chuck Jagodzinski. Very disappointing and very unlike the Chuck Jagodzinski we've seen bowl here on the show before, but we've also, I think, done a good job of explaining to you why that can very easily happen sometimes.
Absolutely.
So Jeff's just got to be smooth and smart here, and he's going to get himself a win. And that also means that he is going to be our leadoff bowler when we hit Classic Lanes in 2 weeks. Just down the street from where we are now, right? We're keeping everything nice and close here in Tonawanda. We're just going to move from Grand Island Boulevard over to Military Road.
Won't be far for Jeff. The Bowler's Choice has a pro shop in Classic Lanes, so
there you go.
he'll be able to walk out of the shop and go bowling.
Home lane advantage coming up for Jeff Walsh. So we continue our tour of bowling houses around Western New York, and that will take us to Classic Lanes in 2 weeks with another good list of bowlers have already qualified to take on Jeff Walsh.
Right. Now in this case where he's left the 9-pin, which we like to call a true tap, he actually tripped the 4-0, so that's how easy it is to leave a 4-9 on a very good hit.
And one more to post the final score up for Jeff. So he's going to get to take home the first trophy of his Beat the Champ bowling career. And he gets the late fall, and he finishes with a strike, and Jeff Walsh posts a 2-13, which is going to get him a win over Chuck Jagodzinski. Chuck will finish things out here. So it was a one and done for Mr. 5 in a row this time after he won 5 in a row down in Jamestown. Chuck's going to get the 1 win and turn it over to Jeff. Good strike there. And again, it's not easy to win. It's not easy to win a lot in a row. It's not easy to win 1 in a row. We've seen that.
But now Jeff has an opportunity to set his legacy forth. He'll have 3 shows ahead of him to start working on starting 2 weeks from today.
And a nice little couple of bumps there. Gets another pin knocked down, and it's going to be a good, solid finish here for Chuck Jagodzinski. 1 more to go. Well, yeah, that's what's been kind of fun is that now it's Jeff Walsh's chance to rattle off a couple in a row and put himself towards the top of that stat sheet that I've been keeping every match and every week here. So Chuck Jagodzinski posts a 155.
There's the baby split you've been waiting for.
Oh, there we go. See, I missed it. I missed the baby split. I was ready for the baby split all month here, and there it was, and I'm too busy writing stuff down, and I missed it. It's a 213 to 155 win for Jeff Walsh. We'll talk to Jeff, we'll talk to Chuck, and we'll wrap things up here on week 3 at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda when we come back. Beat the Champ rolls your way right after this commercial break. It's a 213 to 155 win for Jeff Walsh over Chuck Jagodzinski. You said you were really struggling to find your spot on the lanes.
Yeah, I kept missing inside. A couple shots I hit it good, but I let the 4-9, so then I moved left and I just didn't throw it out far enough and left the splits. 4 splits, 1 misses. You're not going to win.
Yeah, well, and again, and you know how to win in this competition, and it just didn't happen for you today. It did happen for this guy, Sue.
Jeff, you did a good job of making your spares and staying in the game while you found your spot. What changed to start striking?
After the first 4 frames, I was standing in the back, and Matty Z kind of came over and just said, you know, kind of square your eyes, cheat your eyes a little bit, and I did, and it helped. I figured at that point, worst case scenario is going to be a 4-pin, and I'd be happy with that. So thanks to him, it worked, and I just couldn't get my nerves down today at all. I was, man, oh man, jittery today.
Well, you've been on this show enough. You should be over that by now.
Yeah, I don't get it. It was awful. And I know I don't have time because he's quick, so which is great. I love bowling fast, so that was good. So.
All right. Well, even though Matt helped you out a little bit, he's got enough of these, so you don't have to share that one with him.
He's not getting it.
You get to keep that one all by yourself. Jeff Walsh takes home his first Beat the Champ weekly win trophy. Sue and I will wrap up our 3rd week here at Manor Lanes in Tonawanda when Beat the Champ continues right after this. Well, Sue, we talked about the great lineup of 4 bowlers we were going to have in this show, and those guys did bowl like all-stars, but we also saw the lane conditions really test these guys.
I mean, that was the true challenge of those conditions. We saw 279 come right back and barely be able to shoot 200. And that's how fast that it changes when the lanes are that complicated. So we got what we were looking for, high scores, and yet showcasing the challenging lanes.
Yeah, and it's Jeff Walsh who winds up taking home the trophy, and he will come back in 2 weeks when we move Beat the Champ just down the road over to Classic Lanes. Make sure you join us next week. It's our 4th week special edition Sightless Bowlers from the Sightless Bowlers League here at Manor Lanes. Going to be a terrific and special show. Make sure you join us. For all the gang here at WBBZ-TV and Hall of Famer Sue Navoyski, my name is Paul Peck. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. We'll see you next week on Beat the Champ.